Chapter 2 Fear of Men. The earth had not been quiet since the descent. The Gorduy and Elyan ships hung above the desert, shining in the night like two cold suns, and every man knew that the world could never be the same again. But what could have been the beginning of an era of peace slowly turned into a cloud of suspicion. And nothing ignited the spark of fear more strongly than the disappearance of the two witnesses. The Bridge of Light and the Witness of Life.It was true, Eryon-Tal, Lieutenant Liam, and Sael-Rien. Lieutenant Naomi had been taken by the fallen civilizations. Without public explanation, without being shown to the people again. The two had become for many the symbols of the Alliance, proof that Gorduy and the Elyans had not come as masters, but as brothers. But their absence, even for a few days, raised the question, if they were kidnapped? The first rumors started in the council chambers, where generals and presidents, locked between concrete walls and cold lights, were coldly debating the fate of humanity. "No one can prove that the two left willingly," said a northern leader, banging his fist on the table. "They disappeared. For our peoples, this is evidence of hostility." "Or a sign that something is being prepared," added another. "Maybe they are transforming them, maybe they are using them as weapons. How can we trust beings who don't even breathe like us? Gorduy and the Elyans claim to offer us peace, but every imposed peace is a disguised conquest," murmured someone else. No one was talking about the real problem, the loss of control. The fall of the two civilizations had shaken the world order. What was the point of borders, armies, military strategies, when 5-meter beings could build temples in a single night, and people of light could read thoughts? Behind the speeches about security and protection, there was actually the fear of being replaced, of becoming useless. Newspapers and networks turned the rumor into truth. Huge headlines read, "The witnesses have been kidnapped," or "Gorduy and the Elyans are preparing total domination." Photos of colossal ships, giants walking through the sand and Elyans floating above the water were presented with alarmist subtitles. "Monsters who will be our masters. Their light will burn us." Ordinary people, those who watched the screens in the squares or in poor houses, found themselves caught between amazement and panic, and the cities. Crowds came out to demand answers. Where are the bridge and the witness? Are they alive? Or have they been destroyed? Some worshipped them, painting their faces on the walls, calling them heaven's chosen ones. Others hated them, shouting that they had betrayed their species and that they were already something else. And the desert, the Elyans and the Gorduy watched with anxiety at the reactions of the people. They did not fully understand the power of human fear. For them, the absence of the two was natural. The Bridge of Light and the Witness of Life had undergone a process of interweaving energies, an initiation, through which they would be able to clearly transmit the message of civilizations. But they had not understood how much humanity had become attached to those figures. One night, Sereth, the wisest of the Elyans, said to his brothers, "I gave people a spark of truth, and they turned it into a sword. Their fear is a flame that will burn both the gift and the darkness." And Thamrose, the old Gorduy, looked at him in silence, knowing that in the eyes of men, stone and light could just as easily be seen as chains. Fear had become fuel for those who sought power, and the halls of government, generals were already proposing plans, consolidating arsenals, uniting states under a common front. "If these foreigners want to rule us, we must show them that we are not slaves, we have weapons, we have fire." And so, in the name of security, humanity prepared for war against beings who had not even picked up weapons. And villages and cities, simple people were the most affected. Some prayed to the sky, convinced that the end of the world was coming. Others organized guards, convinced that the Gorduys would steal their children and the markets of the East. Storytellers said that the Witness of Life had been torn apart by the light of the Elyans, and the Bridge of Light had been transformed into a stone colossus in the West. Conspiracy theories said that the two had never existed, that everything had been a setup to lull humanity to sleep before the conquest. Every rumor was a seed. and from every seed grew fear. One day, a gathering of thousands of people gathered in the capital of one of the great states. The crowd carried banners and shouted, "Bring back the witnesses! We do not want false gods! Down with the traitors!" In the midst of the protest, a young boy, his eyes burning with fanaticism, stood on a statue and shouted, "If they do not release them, we will defeat them. The earth belongs to men, not to giants and shadows of light." His cry was taken up by the crowd, transformed into a battle song, and the generals, looking at the images on the screens, smiled. For them, the proof was clear: the people demand war. All this time, the Bridge of Light and the Witness of Life were in a crystal hall, somewhere between the Illyrian ships. They were not prisoners, but initiates. Around them, the energies of stone and light merged, flooding their bodies. They saw visions of the future, battles, burned cities, but also fragments of peace, of rebirth. They knew that the time of initiation was short, and that, once they returned, the world would look at them differently, perhaps as saviors, perhaps as traitors. Eryon-Tal said to Sael-Rien, as the light penetrated his skin, "If they do not understand the truth, everything we do will turn against them." Sael-Rien looked at him, with tears of light in her eyes. "Then we must not only tell them, we must be prepared to suffer for them." But humanity did not want to wait any longer. The absence of the two had become the ultimate proof that the descended beings had not brought peace, but threat. One night, when the sky was covered with a storm, a secret council of the great powers came together. Their decision was simple and terrible. We cannot remain passive. If they use them against us, if they turn the bridge and the witness into weapons, it will be too late. We must attack first. Thus, fear turned into strategy, and suspicion into a declaration of war. The descent of the two civilizations had been seen at first as a gift from the gods. But people, through their fear, rewrote it in their memory as the beginning of an invasion. The kidnapping of the Bridge of Light and the Witness of Life had not been a crime, but an initiation. But, in the eyes of people, the truth no longer mattered. All that mattered was that humanity felt threatened. And when people feel threatened, they take up arms. Thus began the first bell of war.